Well, the leader of Ukraine and the leader of the United States both made clear that the way they see it, the conversation that took place between them is not the way, didn't take place the way the Democrats are characterizing it. The way opponents of Trump have characterized that conversation, of which a transcript is now available, is simply not an accurate representation. Here's the President of the United States and the President of Ukraine.
You heard that we had, I think, good phone call. It was normal. We spoke about many things, and so I think, and you read it, that nobody pushed me. Yes.
In other words, no pressure. You know there was no pressure. All you have to do is see it, what went on the call. But you know that. But you could ask the question, and I appreciate the answer. I think that somebody, if you look at what he did, it's so bad. Where his son, he goes to China, he walks away with $1.5 billion. He goes to Ukraine and he walks away with $50,000 a month and a lot of money in addition to that. And the whole thing with the prosecutor in Ukraine. And he's on tape. This isn't like maybe he did it, maybe he didn't. He's on tape doing this.
Now, the contents of that conversation they were describing is now fully public, declassified by order of the president. And if you look at this brief conversation held for 3 minutes on July 25th, it's pretty clear there was a mention of Joe Biden, his son Hunter Biden, and a prosecutor in Ukraine. This is from the transcript that was just released.
There's a lot of talk about Biden's son, that Biden stopped the prosecution, and a lot of people want to find out about that, so whatever you can do with the Attorney General would be great. I will have Mr. Giuliani give you a call, and I'm also going to have Attorney General Barr call, and we will get to the bottom of it. I'm sure you will figure it out.
But in this transcript, there is no mention of the $400 million of military aid. In the initial allegations from the Democrats, it was alleged that Trump had threatened to withdraw aid from Ukraine unless they gave him information on Joe Biden. Now, that simply is not in this transcript. However, the Democrats have moved ahead with their impeachment inquiry. And at this point, we are hearing some very loud denunciations of Trump from the Democratic Party. It could get interesting.
Well, the impeachment inquiry has already been launched by Nancy Pelosi. The transcript perhaps didn't contain what they wanted it to contain, the Democrats, the evidence. What comes next in terms of where that will go?
Well, the U.S. Constitution lays out a procedure for removing the president by impeachment. So essentially, you've got two houses of the U.S. Congress. The first house being the House of Representatives. They would be the house that decides to go ahead with impeachment. At this point, we've got 6 committees investigating Trump. It would be the Judiciary Committee. They would be the ones to ultimately bring impeachment articles against Donald Trump. And if they were to then vote to begin impeachment proceedings, it would be then the U.S. Senate that would convene an impeachment trial and then vote on whether or not to remove Trump from office. Now, in U.S. history, only 2 presidents have been impeached. Bill Clinton was impeached, as was Andrew Johnson. And both of those U.S. presidents remained in office. They were not removed from office. The impeachment trial happened, and the Senate voted to keep them in office. Now, Richard Nixon was facing an impeachment inquiry leading to an impeachment trial. He resigned ahead of time. So we have not had any president in U.S. history ever removed through the impeachment route. Now, Donald Trump argues that if the Democrats continue to pursue this, it'll actually work to his benefit. This is Donald Trump.
All sorts of corruptions of some of the things they do.
Seen it, so I've just come from our own meeting. But the transcript is, the fact is that the President of the United States, in breach of his constitutional responsibilities, has asked a foreign government to help him in his political campaign.
President Trump abused the powers of his office and betrayed the public trust for personal political gain.
Like any mafia boss, the president didn't need to say, "That's a nice country you have. It'd be a shame if something happened to it," because that was clear from the conversation. There is no quid pro quo necessary to betray your country or your oath of office. Even though many read this as a quid pro quo. I'm not concerned whether it is a quid pro quo or not.
Now, those were Democratic leaders reacting to the transcript, but they have a very different interpretation of it than Trump and the Ukrainian leader. They don't seem to see the conversation in the same way. Now, not all Democrats are immediately jumping onto the idea of impeachment. Tulsi Gabbard has spoken up and said she doesn't support the idea of impeaching Trump. She says it would hurt the Democratic Party and the country in the long term and divide the country. So Tulsi Gabbard, and she has spoken up, but many Democrats seem to be excited about the potential of beginning an impeachment proceeding against Donald Trump. It's important to note, however, that at this point the Senate is controlled by Republicans, and it's very likely that if impeachment proceedings began, Mitch McConnell, who is the Senate Majority Leader, he could simply have the Senate vote not to carry out an impeachment trial. So a lot remains in question about what comes next, but Donald Trump and the Ukrainian leader and the Democrats have a very different interpretation of the conversation that we now have a full transcript of available.
They certainly do, and it's certainly going to be an interesting run-up to that 2020 election, isn't it, with all this going on. RT's Caleb Maupin there with the updates from New York. And Dr. Robert Gutscher, an associate professor of U.S. politics, told us the transcript raises a lot of questions, not only concerning the U.S. leader.
This is just a glimpse at what we're looking at. But certainly an inquiry could open up lots of doors that we haven't even considered yet about presidential conduct or misconduct that may have been going on around this particular instance or others. You're not seeing a lot in mainstream U.S. press. You're not seeing questions about, well, could this also be distracting us from what Joe Biden and his son and others have been involved in? Maybe there really is something there. That's a question that's not coming through. Really, the questions that are being asked and the hope, I think, for those who are anti-Trump is that this leads into really great leaked information or juicy information, not about Joe Biden, but about Donald Trump, for the people who are upset with his politics. And this could be a way to move us away from what Joe Biden might be involved in, if anything.